Hi, welcome back to Zoomers the podcast. I'm Isla.
And I'm Eliana, and today we're going to be discussing lowering the voting age from 18 to 16. So recently, Gen Z, which is current 16-year-olds, and the ages surrounding, we've showed that we can have a huge political and social impact in today's society.
Yeah, and a recent example of this was when Barron Trump, we kind of started the Save Barron Trump movement from saving him from his father, which if you haven't heard about, basically in the news, people have realized, and there's been statements released and stuff that his son is such a sweet little kid, and he deserves to be saved from his father, because he's not allowed to have friends and stuff, and so he should be saved. And so that's basically where that came from.
Yeah, they're mostly from entertainment, news outlets, and Gen Z is these and kind of use them, and it's fueled this movement, and it's become so big that Trump addressed it in a tweet. So that was pretty big, and even bigger than that was the recent Trump rally, I guess, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and a bunch of teens, mostly from TikTok and K-pop stans, flooded his rally with RSVPs. So Trump Trump and his officials thought that there'd be over 1 million people attending this rally, when in fact about 6,000 showed up. So that was a huge thing, and I think Gen Z doesn't realize how big of an impact we can have. Our numbers are huge, and through social media, we can connect really, really quickly and efficiently.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that says about our mental kind of makeup, but it does say a lot about how much of an impact we can have politically, and also how much we care about politics.
Yeah, and I think we're definitely really good about sharing information on certain issues, everything that's, at least from what I can remember, everything that's kind of been going on in the last year. There's been a ton of coverage on everything from Australia fires to Black Lives Matters to the concentration camps in China to literally just everything that's going on. And because I mean, I was personally aware of a lot of these issues, but I think when they started being brought up more and more and discussed more online, I understood these problems more, and just got a better sense of more information about the problems out there.
Yeah, I do think a lot of us are really, really well spoken and well versed, and through social media, obviously, we've raised a lot of awareness. Some people who oppose the whole lowering voting age, I guess, movement, are saying that teens don't care enough about politics or certain social issues. And from seeing my friends and myself going out to different protests for environmental changes or women's rights, reproductive rights, and then the Black Lives Matter rallies and protests, those things were huge and had a huge Gen Z turnout. So I don't know where the whole doesn't care thing comes up, because a huge number of us are going out to these things and being really vocal about them on social media. So yeah, so there's that to combat that sort of idea that we don't care as much.
Yeah, I think that we've done a great job, what you've said. On the protests in general, we're just, I feel definitely very vocal, and we're really willing to participate and try and do as much as we can to solve the issues that are going on. And I feel we try as much as we can. And we're really good about sharing resources and stuff too. The amount of people being look at my links in my bio for ways you can help. I think that's a really helpful way, besides just addressing, saying what the issue is, to actually give resources to help address it.
Mm-hmm. I see. So, if someone said if someone said to you or like address the whole of Gen Z, particularly 16 and 17-year-olds, saying that we were too immature to be voting, how would you respond to that? Because like that's like the most like that's the most common argument to combat the voting age being lowered.
I mean, I can see where people are coming from who definitely say that. And I, in some ways, definitely do agree that yes, our brains are still developing. But the thing is that when you do turn 18, your brain is still developing. Your brain takes forever to finish developing. So to say that like 16-year-olds, like they're just too immature, I think if you're giving like 18-year-olds the chance to vote, then it could definitely be lowered. Yes, there are immature people out there. There are going to be immature 18-year-olds who are also voting and voting for the wrong reasons. But I think by giving people that are below the age of 18, like the 16 and 17-year-olds, a chance to voice their opinions, a lot of more positive changes can be made. And so this is just my personal like opinion, but like for example, in like education in high schools, that there's 16, 17, and 18-year-olds that go through high school. And by lowering the voting age, I feel like the public education system would be greatly helped because at least where we live, our education system is just run by the teachers union and students have no power in the decisions. And I understand the total reason for the teachers union, and I think like a lot of the things that they advocate for like are great, but sometimes they're just going over the top and really not thinking about students first. And that's kind of what like you need to think about students in school. Obviously like teachers matter too, of course, but like they just really lack caring about students sometimes. And so I think by lowering the voting age, students' voices could be heard more and more positive changes could be made for us, and things that are just things that adults don't really do. Like high school, that's really a place that like 16 and 17-year-olds are at. And so I think like lowering that would help those types of problems. That's just like the one thing I can think of off the top of my head. But like I'm sure there's like other things too that are more like pertaining to us and or like people at that age. And so I just think like lowering it would solve more problems that haven't been addressed because they're not important to people. Because when you're like in the government and you're making these decisions and stuff in like those positions of power, you're like pretty old. Like you're not in high school, you're not thinking, or at least from what I've seen, a lot of the times they don't think about high schoolers and what we want because we're of no relevance to these people running because we don't have a vote, so we don't matter to them. They don't want to create change for us, they don't want to help us out, they don't really care about us. We could be like nothing in their minds because we don't have votes. And so I think by changing it and giving us the vote, our voices would have more weight and our problems would matter more. And in general, we could help make the world a better place.
Yeah, I do think that's very, very true. And like what you were saying earlier about 16 to 18-year-olds all being on the same page in brain development, that's very, very true. Like the PFC, prefrontal cortex, is still developing. That's like the area for decision making. So if we're gonna go off of science alone, the voting age should be honestly raised to 25 or almost, and like
Yeah.
that's obviously not like a big thing right now. Like 18 is like the 18 like is like the cutoff right now. But also what you're saying about a lot of people being people in power and voters right now being pretty old or like being like, I don't know, like not elderly, but I I read something the other day about like Ruby Bridges, who is the first African American girl to enroll in a white public school. Like she is only 65, so that means that, and she was like super young at the time that she was enrolled in this school. So that means that like the kids that were like who had racist views, those are the people who are voting right now. And I'm not saying that people can't change, obviously, but that's not a good statistic to have. Like in our voting system, people who were racist and had these views when they were developing, like as teenagers and young adults, they're now like in our voting system. So I don't know like what that says about like the whole balance right now, but I I think that a lot of our views are solidified around this age too. I can't really speak since I'm not like older yet, but I doubt my views are going to change because like a lot of my views are centered around morals, and those things are solidified like around this time, like your morals and your code of conduct and like your whole I guess moral code are all developed right now. So yeah, so like my political views are personally based on my morals, so I don't
Yeah.
think they'll change.
No, I totally agree with you when you say that, because and like I don't know, I've read like things that are like your political views are just based off your parents, like you follow in pursuit of what your parents think. And while I think like your parents have an impact on your life, I really don't think it's to like the be all end all. Like it's just not like you take everything after your parents. Like I feel like they've raised me in a certain way, so that kind of shapes who I am. But I think I personally have my own decisions, and like a lot of times I disagree with my parents on a lot of things. And I agree. I think a lot of times, yeah, it's usually based off my moral code and what I think is right or wrong. And honestly, like I kind of wonder where my moral code was even like formed. And I feel like it changes all the time still, because like I don't know, constantly I'm always questioning things, and I'm like, what do I even truly believe in some areas? Like one thing I've been thinking about more recently is like truth, because like I don't know. I think I said this in the last episode. Like I don't know. I feel like it's really not okay to lie, but I don't know. I've been talking to more people about this. I don't know why. It's just been like a hot topic for a lot of people recently, and like I feel like there's so many different like views on that. But anyways, basically I agree, and I think people's moral codes really don't change over time. And at least from what I've seen, like older people that I meet and talk to on a more regular basis, they really have really opinionated views in terms of like politics. And sometimes, in my opinion, they don't seem to really be supported by any evidence, and it's just kind of their opinion. And I feel like they're not like the best views because of that, because there's no like reasoning behind it, and it's just simply what they want to believe. And I feel like, yes, you can have like your own opinions, obviously, but if it's not going to be backed up by any like logic, like I just feel like you might want to look at maybe changing your views to make something that actually makes sense,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. And a lot of like political, I guess, movements are put forward by people's personal interests. And I'm not saying that Gen Z isn't selfish either, because like it's human nature to want the best for yourself and I guess for your kids or like your loved ones. So that's why I think that older people, there are so many environmental bills that were cut off because of the age. I think because of the age of people voting on these bills. Whereas if like younger people, like 16 and 17-year-olds, were given more of a voice here, like this is like gonna impact our futures, you know, like not just our descendants or our kids, but ours. Because I don't know, like if I was able to vote for a certain bill that would like decrease greenhouse gases or something, and therefore like make my future a greener place, like I would definitely go for that. Whereas someone who's maybe middle aged towards like their 60s wouldn't like be as likely, I think, because their life isn't being directly um, like affected by this bill, because I don't know, they're nearing the end of their life, I guess. So I'm not saying that we wouldn't be selfish like that, but like we want the best for our futures, and that's the best for like our descendants and stuff. And that pattern will keep continuing if we lower the voting age, and that's like I don't know how to explain this, but if that pattern keeps continuing and younger people want the best for their future, it's gonna cycle back and like have a better like have better effects in a longer timeline. That makes any sense. Do you?
No, that does. And yeah, I just feel like as a younger generation, we're just more motivated to make changes that will actually be helpful for our future. And a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like I keep saying a lot of people in power who are older, because I feel like just to get to be like president and all this stuff, there's usually like a certain age you have to be. So it's generally like older than us. Like I feel like when I say older, that might make you think like really old, but just like older than us. And like I feel like a lot of their goals are just usually short term. Like while I'm in office or while I am doing this, how can I make myself look the best to make myself look like I'm doing a great job for our country or whatever. And I feel like we're more motivated by long-term goals and sustainably going about doing things, whereas their goals are more about creating the most profit. I mean, I think we also probably are like profit sometimes. I don't know. It just seems like we're more about caring about the future.
Yeah, this is especially true for like environmental reasons, and a lot of us are a lot more liberal thinking about things like reproductive rights because Gen Z is a lot less religious than the older generations.
Mm-hmm.
People can argue that that's a problem. Like people don't have like Gen Z is not as rooted, I guess, like internally or like spiritually. But I don't know. It's really it's a toss up for me there since I am religious and like I have certain political views. So it's always a struggle. But I do think like obviously like I wouldn't have this struggle if I wasn't religious, right? And so
Yeah.
all these things that like make me I don't know, like make me unique, right? I'm sure there's not a lot of us, like not very many of us who have the exact same worldview, right? Like there are people who like maybe I go to school with, but like we don't have like the same political opinions or if I don't know, or if people I go to church with and like we don't share the same political opinions. So like
Yeah.
everyone's experiences are so different, yet like it's like a huge Venn diagram, you know? And I think it's especially true in Gen Z because there's so many different, I guess, things you can have stances on now. So I think with most people, you can probably find a crossover in something. So I don't know what that says about, I don't know, because a lot of people have very differing things. There's no like left and right anymore. There's tons of little things, you know, like there's so many different issues.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know how it's going to change politics in the future because I don't know, do politicians have to establish that they're pro this and like anti that and pro this and I don't know. Maybe that's going to impact our politics in the future. It's not going to be like Democrats and Republicans or.
I mean, like, honestly, on the whole subject of like Democrats and Republicans, like, I don't know. Personally, I don't like to identify with like parties and stuff, or just like, I guess it's just because I'm like free spirit. I don't even know. Because like, I don't like, I just fit under like, because I don't identify with like, I don't agree with everything that one party's like, all their values and stuff. But like, the thing is about having those parties, like, the thing is, like, I feel like they're not going to fall out because, like, when people go up for election and stuff for president and they're like usually under like the other category and not in like Democrat or Republican, they like don't get enough support because like majority of the population wants to like vote within their like group or whatever of like Republican or Democrat. So I feel like there's not going to really be a change, and I feel like they're going to still be there in the future and people are going to still like, I don't know. I feel like they might be even more present there in the future. I don't know. Personally, like, I don't know. I think it's kind of not like bad, but I feel like to just like, I get it, but like, I just feel like our whole system, like, I just feel like there could be some better way. I can't like think of a way on like the top of my head, but like, I just feel like there has to be like some better way to like run everything. And like, I don't know. Also, like, I think this is a value of like Democrats, but I could be wrong. Like, at least from, or like around here, I don't know. I was having this conversation with someone the other day, and like people are saying that like people want more things to be run by the government. Like, have you heard anything about how, like, that's, like, a democratic ideal or something? Like, the government should have, like, more power?
Huh.
Because, like, I don't know, I was, like, 'cause I don't really know, like, all the political things, but, like, apparently that's, like, a thing, I think, and, like, just this is just my 2 cents on that, like, I don't think that's that great, like like, you look at, like, the government agencies, like the DMV and stuff, and, like, no offense, but they cannot get it together. They are so disorganized. They lose everyone's papers. The lines are so long. Like, everyone constantly complains about it. Like, I like I maybe know one person who's had a good experience with the DMV. Like, and that's just one government agency, but there's so many others that just are so disorganized and they're such a mess. And to like give government more, like the government more power over like more entities, like I just see it being a whole mess. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't heard about that so much, like in association with like Democrats, I guess.
Okay, maybe it's not like a Democrat thing, but I heard it's more of like a Californian. I don't really know. It was like a Democrat Californian thing. I don't know. I feel like there's a word. I don't really remember.
I don't know. Maybe you mean like leftist? I've heard that
Maybe
like.
no.
But yeah, yeah, like growing up in California, right? Most of ours are Democrats, so I haven't had like that much interaction per se with Republicans, but I have met people who have like very like differing opinions, like from the rest of like the population around us, I guess. So like it's definitely like there's definitely a lot more like to it than just the two sides, because
Yeah.
like I don't know, like I think I can see things that are good per se in both sides, and then also things that are bad on both sides.
Yeah,
So
no, I totally agree with you on that. Like, that's why I don't want to be like, oh, I love one party versus the other. Because, like, there are some great things to both sides and horrible things, like you said. Like, I don't know. I feel like, just personally, I feel like some people are really extreme, at least some people I know, and they, like, take one side, like, and they're like, this is what's right. I am a Democrat to the day I die, and everything is so horrible with Republicans. And I feel like that's a horrible way to look at things because, like, I feel like some people just need to be more open minded because I personally have, like, some values that I know are, like, of the minority and around here. Like, I don't have, like, I guess, I don't know. But, like, and, like, I don't really feel, I guess, like, welcomed in discussing like my ideas about that. Like I'm fine doing it. Like I'm not like I know I'll probably be attacked for some things and like I'm fine with being attacked. But like I don't know. I just feel like if other people like feel that way about like even if it's like if they have a minority view and like I don't know, like I guess I see some minority views and like obviously some of them are a minority for a reason because they're like really just like horrible views to have. But I feel like some other minority views are just like new things that people haven't really thought of and stuff. And like it's just like it could be like enlightening to hear and just hear a new perspective. And so I feel like people just need to be more open-minded and like more open to having like open conversations about these things and like totally hearing the other side out, which is like why I wanted to do like I like this podcast idea so much because like I don't know, I feel like we for the most part kind of agree on a lot of things,
sure.
but like I think it's nice to like hear other people's opinions and just like kind of see where they're coming from because it like helps me to like kind of reevaluate my opinions too. But like I don't know, I just think it's like more important for like really important for people to like stay open and like hear the other side, which I think is kind of where like a lot of the problems right now kind of stem from because like people aren't willing to see like what they're doing, why what they're doing is so wrong, and like they're not willing to like hear.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Like in a lot of like political discussion, people walk in with such a strong mindset that they're kind of like deaf to everything else that's being said.
Yeah.
Like someone else has like a very valid point. So I don't know, like what I would say to people was like walk in with an open mind or at least like actively listen to other people. Like maybe you can like use something they say against them or something, like just listen. Cause like I've like gone home from like discussions we've had like in history or English and like had to like think over my morals again or like think over a past decision. So and it's like fun to do that. Like it's interesting to reevaluate and think over it again. And I think this is like this openness is something that a lot of Gen Z like embodies, which is great. I see like a lot of this headstrong / stubbornness in like the older generations. The whole thing with like elders is like, okay, well, like I've been taught my whole life to like respect my elders like under any circumstances. So like that's just like my thing. So I'll just kind of like sit there and be like, okay, I'm just not gonna like say anything. But I don't know if that's gonna change in the future. Like I don't know if or when I have kids, if I'm gonna like force them to listen to me, like my political opinions. Like of course I'm gonna like discipline them or whatever. But like I don't know if like I want them to think that like I'm the only one who's right, kind of thing.
Yeah. Like honestly, if I do ever have kids, I don't know if that's gonna be a thing, but like I feel like honestly, like I would totally be fine if they have complete opposite viewpoints as me, as long as they can give some valid argument. Like I don't know. I feel like I just want like kids who will like you know just form their own opinion. Like honestly, like I feel like at least for me, I have friends with a lot of different viewpoints on things, and like I really appreciate that because I like to like have my worldview widened. I like to like see new things and hear new things and stuff. But like it just kind of is frustrating to me sometimes when some of these people like they won't even give you a chance to like hear your side of it. And they're like, I'm right and you cannot say anything to convince me otherwise. And I'm like, okay, like, okay, I understand that, but like can you also listen? I don't know. And it's just like kind of frustrating sometimes.
Yeah, I see that in some of my classmates. But yeah, I don't really talk about politics with my friends too much. And I think that's like an idea from like a long time ago as well. Like politics, religion, are like two of the topics you should never discuss in like good company or whatever. Like that's like an old timey rule that I've heard of. I don't know what like the other things are. Like I think like sexuality you shouldn't discuss either. And like honestly, like what else is there to discuss? Like everything else just seems
It's so shallow. Like,
that's
I
what
feel like you need to have those deep conversations. Like, I feel like I understand where that comes from because I know, like right now, at least with some of my friends, like I know I have complete different viewpoints than them, but like it's not stopped me from being friends with them still. Like I know some of them probably kind of make fun of me for like some of my ideas. I know they do, but like I feel like they've kind of like we both kind of accept like we have different viewpoints kind of like really like we're like we'll accept it enough to still be friends and stuff. At least they might completely disagree with me, and I feel like it's good to have those conversations because like I feel like some of them have definitely changed my mind on some things and I've changed their minds on some other things.
yeah. So like all this being said, like I think we like a lot of 16, 17-year-olds are ready to vote. Like not only are we like headstrong, not headstrong, but like are we pretty vocal about our political opinions and like hold them as kind of not a part of our identity, but but like we discuss them a lot and they permeate our lives in all sorts of ways. Um, and another thing that a friend brought up to me a while ago was the whole taxation without representation thing. That's the whole reason that the Revolutionary War began. And that's something that's a huge part of American culture. And like, it's like a huge part of our lives, I guess. It's like one of the original American values. And yet a lot of 16, 17-year-olds work without limits on their hours and then have to pay taxes. Like I had a job last summer and I had to pay taxes to the state because of what I worked, but like, yeah, I don't get to vote. Like I don't,
Yeah.
that just seems totally immoral to like, I don't know, take some of my money, right? And
Yeah.
and then I get no representation like whatsoever. Like I know that like I'm 16, I was like 15 then, but I think that's something that can be argued. Like that's like a huge point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like it's super frustrating to have like I work like pretty hard, at least in my opinion, and like and then like the government takes it away from me, but yeah, I have like no say in what they're going to do with it. Like it just doesn't seem very fair. And like also like don't like, okay, I might be wrong about this, but like don't prisoners not like have, they can't like vote or something? Like
It's like like under like some amendment, like everyone is entitled to vote, and like the only exception is people who are incarcerated, or yeah, prisoners.
yeah, so like, and like I guess like I see where they people come from who like say that and like made that rule, but also at the same time, like there's that whole thing where like then some people are on purpose like getting put kind of in prisons so they can't vote because like, you know, like I don't know, at least I saw this online, and they were talking about how like the government, they know that there's like certain demographics of people, I guess, who like don't really support them, and so like they're kind of put more in jail, so then they don't have like the voice to like vote and stuff, and so then they'll be like they then the people will stay in power. And I don't know, and I thought that's kind of like messed up in some ways. Like I guess I see where it comes from, but like I don't know, I feel like it's kind of like taxation without representation in some ways. Like
That too. Like the whole like incarceration system is a huge part of politics, and like I watched a documentary like a while ago about how like they kind of like manipulated the prison system into
yeah,
incarcerating certain individuals that probably wouldn't have supported certain like amendments or bills that the politician in question was like advocating for. I don't know like what kind of message they're putting out with that, but it's definitely not a good one. And the whole like us being kids thing as well, I just thought of like a lot of 16, 17-year-olds are tried in adult courts and like referred to as young adults when they're in trouble, I guess, or like,
yeah,
and like we're yeah, I don't understand that, how like they're able to like if I went to a politician and demanded these rights, I'd be called like a little girl and like to kind of step down, like I'm a child, like, or like a minor. Yet like if I like committed a crime, they would refer to me as a young adult and like try me that way. So
yeah,
it's like it's very, very twisted. And I don't think that's fair at all, you know?
yeah, I totally agree. And I feel like they're just taking a term and making it work for them when they want it to, and then turning around and like not using that and twisting it another way. Like I feel like there's just so many times when that happens, and I know it happens a lot in my family too, like with myself. I know like sometimes when like I don't know, I guess when my parents like frustrated with me, I'm like, but I'm still like a child, my brain's still developing. And then my mom's like, you can't do this, like you're still like developing, so therefore you shouldn't have like the privilege to do this because you might not be responsible enough. I'm like, but I'm almost an adult. And I feel like I kind of do that same thing. And I feel like it's kind of just like the twisting of like making the situation work for you when you want it to. And like, I don't know, it's just like, I feel like you have to like go one way or the other and not just like
Yeah,
make it work for you.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm not saying like you're right for doing that, but there's like a difference between you doing that to like get to do something versus like a politician doing that to, you know, like incarcerate somebody. So
Yeah.
like there's a huge difference. So like that ideal is very similar. And like since I guess we are still developing, like I don't know where we get that from, like the whole twisting of certain words and like using diction against other people. Like that's like a huge thing. Like there's a and like language, I guess, is a very powerful thing. Like there's a huge difference between saying like, okay, I can't think of like an example off the top of my head, but like between saying like I like look through like your private files versus like ransacking them, you know? Like that's like a huge.
Yeah. No. Yes. No, I know what you're talking about. I was listening to a podcast on that, and it was like talking about how like there's such a bias, and this, and also this relates to my like psych class I'm taking. Like when you're doing like surveys and stuff to like question people, and you like send things, like if you're like and they're like when they like test people and stuff, when you choose the words, like the weight of the word, like, oh, the light bump of the car, or like the crash and blah blah blah, like it's like people perceive it completely differently, and when they're asked questions later on it, they'll have a completely different perspective of what they like imagined in their mind. And like words are totally like so important and meaningful, like yeah, like 100%.
Yeah, and like this can be used like I guess in politics and in law. Like in the movie Legally Blonde, like remember when Elle's in class, um,
Yeah.
like disputes like a certain classmate's like argument by saying like this could be termed reckless abandonment, and like the professor's like, oh yeah, I think you've just won your case. I've seen this movie way too many times, but it can be used like that in law. And if you like listen in on like any court hearings or like have read about them or something, like the two different sides, right? Like the defense and like I don't know what the prosecutor, I guess, like
Yeah.
language is very different for describing the exact same scene, like because they're trying to like argue for different people and like opposing sides. So yeah, language is very, very powerful. And okay, get back to the voting age thing. The last thing that we have like I guess on our side, or like the pro lowering the age to 16 side, is that a lot of us, of course, are enrolled in high school, and we're taking classes that concern politics. Like next year, I'm going to be in AP US History.
Yeah.
US History next year, and then in senior year, 17-year-olds to 18-year-olds, that's like government or AP government. So applying these things in a real life context can strengthen civics education, and it could even like increase our engagement. And the whole thing is that like if like someone starts something at a younger age, it'll continue like throughout their life, certain patterns. So I guess voting falls under this as well. And there's a whole like problem with civic engagement in people and our citizens. Like not a lot of people are showing up to vote. So yeah, so I think if we start this way earlier, we could increase our civic engagement for the future.
Yeah, and also like in terms of voting, okay, I feel like I'm gonna sound like a hypocrite for saying this because I haven't done this yet, but like you can like pre-register once you turn 16 to vote. And I went online to do it, but I couldn't remember some of the things they were asking for, so I kept putting it off, but I'm gonna do it eventually. I'll commit to doing it in like the next month.
Okay.
But like I feel like it's really important to like pre-register for voting, just because like I don't know, I guess you just get it out of the way and you're in the system, and then it makes it easier to vote when the time comes. So like I highly encourage like anyone out there who is now like in the 16 to 18-year-old age, like in that age range, to pre-register.
Yeah, okay. If I can find the link, I'll put it in the description.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I'm really interested in that too, because I don't know, like planning ahead is always great, and like having a voice in your own future is super, super important. Like I think everyone can relate to the feeling like of kind of losing control, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
like feeling like you have no say in your own future, and like this could change that. Because I don't know, I think that like right now, like our lives are kind of like still hazy, like we don't know exactly what we're gonna do. So kind of getting a better idea of like what the climate's gonna be like both like physically, I guess, like with the environment, and like the political climate, like could give us a better idea of what we want to do.
Yeah, and like even if you think your voice doesn't matter, it really does, because you impact like so many people. And like in terms of like voting and stuff, because I know I used to think this a while ago, like it does really matter what you vote for. Like there's been so many times in these polls when like it could have gone about either way, and so like every person's vote really does matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plus like you have a very strong impact on the people around you. People say like, I don't know what the exact statistic is, but like the 5 people closest to you, like
Yeah.
and you're probably one of those people in somebody else's life, if not multiple people, and like that's like a pattern that can keep like rippling, like so yeah.
Yeah.
everyone's, like Isla said, like everyone's voice is so, so important. And yeah, I'm gonna take that to heart, and like use that, I guess, when my turn comes to vote. I don't know, we're definitely not gonna be able to get the voting age down by the time like we turn 18, right? So I
Yeah.
guess the least we can do is try to push for that for future 16-year-olds, because
Yeah.
okay, so I guess we'll end there for today. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.